Hello, everyone. Today we'll be talking about travel. All right, that is part one. Part two, we'll be talking about describe a child that you know. And part three, we'll be talking about two-way discussion. All right, before we start, my name is Anthony, and today I would like to talk about what are some good ways to answer these questions. All right, first of all, do you enjoy traveling? That'll be the first question. In this case, I would answer it like this. Don't just say yes or no. You can say absolutely or definitely yes. In case of me, I really love traveling. So I can start with definitely yes. Right? I love traveling. Right? And then we can use the if or when conditional. So you can say I travel, when I travel, I love to I love to visit many places, many places that I have never been to. All right, and the topic of the sentence is not really important. The most important thing is how you describe the sentence or the way how you make up the sentence. That is the most important thing. All right. The tone and the pronunciation and the way how we say it, we'll be talking about it. We'll be sharing about it after we finish answering all these things. Okay. Now, next question is, have you done much traveling? And then in case of me, I have not done that much of traveling. So I would answer it like this. To be honest, or you can say frankly speaking. So these three words, right? Frankly speaking, to be honest, or actually, they're all said before you're when you're about to say something negative. All right. So I would say something that is not commonly used, and in my opinion, I think it would be frankly speaking. I'll start with this. Frankly speaking, frankly speaking, I haven't done much traveling. Traveling. All right, and then I would add it with this is because traveling costs a lot of money and I am not that rich. All right. So this is how I would answer it. All right. And the grade level that we're about to evaluate on this is probably around 6.0 to 6.5. So if you're aiming for 6.0 or 6.5, this will be enough answer. This will be good enough for you to get around that score. All right. The next question. Do you think it's better to travel alone or with other people? When we are looking at these type of question, right, with alone or with other people, like any hobby, right? Like, do you like to play music or like, do you like playing game? These type of question are always together, like alone or with other people when they're asking about hobby. Now, this is asking about traveling, right? So they're asking, do you prefer to travel alone or with other people? All right. So the answer that I will put is, I will start with although traveling traveling with other people may give less options, less options, less options, but it is safer and lot of money and a lot of money can be saved. So the amount of answers that we see here, right? You can probably guess around two lines. Two lines is enough to answer for part one question. Next question. Where would you like to travel in the future and why? Here I will start with a sentence. I would use because I love to play soccer. soccer or football, I would like to travel to Brazil and Argentina. Argentina. I heard these countries are famous for soccer. This is how I would answer. So, the reason why I put because, right, is one of the clauses that they actually listen to. So I think that it is really necessary to use this word. And here also, although we also have a subordinate clause, so it is good to use this. And also we have frankly speaking, which is another clause, or like definitely. All right, these are good clauses to start with. So the examiners, right, what they do is that they listen to these words if you're actually using them, because the different words, these make a big difference while we're speaking. It makes a big difference while we're making up a sentence. So it is pretty much important to use these kind of word. All right. Okay. Now we have the part two question. The part two question is about describe a child that you know. All right. Describe a child that we know. Now, before we go through this, right? Um, I would like to explain to you. Now, in my experience, right, in Ielts, the most important thing is speaking for 2 minutes. Now, they're going to give you 1 minute to prepare, and you have to prepare within that 1 minute. All right. And according to my students' experience, some students, they would not say include all of this, but they said that it really didn't make a big difference. They felt like they don't really judge according to what they answer. They really judge according to how they speak for that 2 minutes. So I think it is the most important thing to speak for that 2 minute. Now here, what I'm going to do, right? I'm not going to write down the whole essay, but I'm just going to give you a head start how you can start the essay. All right. Usually I tell my students to always start with this. I'd like to. So here you can start with I'd like to talk about. And as you've noticed here, right? This is I'd, which means I would, right? It is really actually important to use the contraction. We usually call this contraction. It's quite important to use contraction because you have to basically sound like native. Even though you don't sound like native, you should actually act like one. You should act like that you sound like a native, right? So using a contraction is very important. And then you say, I like to talk about, and then a child that I know. And actually, this child is my son. All right, and then, I would explain about like this child, right? And then introduce about this child. So first thing I'm going to talk about is who this child is and how often you see him or her. And then the next question, I've already mentioned that this child is my son, right? So what I'm going to write is, as I mentioned. As I mentioned, is a great word. It's a perfect word. So if you're about to repeat the same word, right? You can always use this word, as I mentioned, then it will actually cover this word. So here you can say, as I mentioned, I have a son, and his name is Ethan. And then I will kind of describe this character. So this doesn't explain about this child. All right. Of course, it says it in the end, right? But these do not have to be in order. But normally, after we explain about the name, right? Age comes next, and then the personality actually comes next. So I'm going to talk about the age and then the personality. So Ethan is a boy's name, right? So I'm going to say he is 4 years old. 4 years old. 4 years old. I'd say He is very hyper and always love to sleep on my wife's I've almost said wives, right? That is more than one wife. I only have one wife. Okay, that was my mistake. On my wife's tummy. All right, and then sometimes I will mix it with a conditional. So I would say, if he doesn't sleep on my wife's tummy, then he gets very. Um, Now, let's not use very. Very is a very, I used very also, but very is a common word, right? So instead of very, I'm going to use the word quite. Right? He gets quite miserable. All right, and then I would write besides that, because, he also has a positive aspect, right? Besides that, he is very, I almost said very, he is cute. All right. And then I will use when conditional also, because it is also important to use that word. When he goes out on the road with me, most of the people would say he is so adorable. All right. That's right. So, and then I'll wrap it up. And when you wrap it up, right, try to use the word so. All right. Remember, the word so is the word when you are wrapping up something. So, this is my son. So this is my son. So you can just end it up like this. All right. You don't use fancy word, just like a normal conversation. And also, it really depends on how you say these things. Depending on how you say these things, right? Um, it really determines whether you're going to get a high score or not. All right. So even if you don't use like a fancy vocabulary, right? Just use the right clauses or the subordinate clauses, then you are able to reach up to 7.0 or more. Okay, now part three. We will discuss about relationships between parents and children. Okay. All right. Now, here, before we answer the question, right, the most important thing is talk about the background, talk about the trend first, and then try to answer these questions. So you can consider it as an essay introduction question. You can speak like it is an introduction, and then the first sentence of the paragraph. So here, right, it says, how much time do children spend with their parents in your country? Do you think that is enough? So here, what you would start with is talk about the background first. Now, when we're talking about the background, right, it is best to use the words like because or since. Okay, so I'm going to use the word since. Since South Korea, since I live. All right, I wouldn't start with that. Since we are living in a busy society, busy society, busy society, parents do not, parents don't really find time to spend with their children. And then I would use conditional again. When they have time, they only have time on Sunday. Okay, which is not enough. Now here I use the word which, the clause which, subordinate clause which, and then I connected the sentence, right? So here we can see three subordinate clauses: since, when, and which. These three words are pretty much important, although they are small, but it is really important to connect the words and to make the sentence longer. And sometimes these are the words that the examiners look for, so it is really important. Now, another type of question is how important. Many of my students kind of struggle how to answer these questions. All right, so here, right, when we are asked for how important, you can start like this. You can start with, oh, I think it is. Okay, I'll use the word very. Actually, you're not supposed to, but let's just sound it natural. Oh, I think it is very important. All right, that's how you start with. Or if you don't think it is important, you can say, actually, I don't think it is important. All right, so either way. All right, but here I'm going to put, I think it is very important. And then, I would have like two reasons. First, depending on how much time you spend time with your children, depending on how much time you spend, all right, I wrote time again, with your children, they can grow healthily. Also, it can be good for the education. Since parents can give their experience to their children. All right, so that's how I wrote. Actually, the answer doesn't really make any sense, but like I told you, the most important thing is the way how you say it. All right, so after we write all of these things, we're going to practice how we can say these things. Okay, have relationships between parents and children changed in recent years, and why do you think that is? Now, this type of question is comparing with present and now. The best way to answer this, right? We can start with the word in the past. So here, I'm going to start with in the past. Parent, children relationship was quite close. And I will use a transition. However, nowadays, as I mentioned, parents do not find that much time to spend with their children. So they are not that close to each other. So you can speak like this. Okay, and then children's free time activities. What are the most popular free time activities with children today? I would start with there are some lists. of activities. Activities children enjoy, such as watching YouTube, um, playing video games, playing computer games, etc. And then I'll say, however, because I want to talk about negative aspect, right? However, this trend has become a negative has become a negative development for the child. Okay. Now, do you think the free time activities children do today are good for their health? Why is that? And then this is something that I'm going to repeat, right? So I'm going to start with the word. So if I'm about to repeat the same answer, right, you can always use the word as I mentioned. As I mentioned, due to the technology, um, that children use nowadays, they are becoming extremely lazy and ignorant. And then I would use these days children don't even read. All right, and then the next question. How do you think children's activities will change in the future? Will this be a positive change? Here I can give like a different answer. So what I would say is, I can't expect any change, but I hope that children would read more books, and learn how to think deeper. I guess this would be the best option for the country and for the individuals. Okay, so I have completed the answers. Now we're going to go over from the beginning and then we're going to answer them, all right? Individuals. All right, now the first question, part one question is about traveling, right? So the part one, I'm going to answer like this. Do you enjoy traveling? Then I would answer, definitely yes. I love traveling. When I travel, I love to visit many places that I have never been before, that I have never been to. Okay, the next question. Have you done much traveling? Frankly speaking, I haven't done much traveling. This is because traveling costs us a lot of money and I am not that rich. Do you think it's better to travel alone or with other people? Although traveling with other people may give less options, but it is safer and a lot of money can be saved. Where would you like to travel in the future? Because I love to play soccer or football, I would like to travel to Brazil and Argentina. I heard these countries are famous for soccer. Part 2 question. Describe a child that you know. I like to talk I like to talk about a child that I know. I have to put about a child that I know. And actually this child is my son. As I mentioned, I have a son and his name is Ethan. He is 4 years old. I say he is very hyper and always loves to sleep on my wife's tummy. If he doesn't sleep on my wife's tummy, then he gets quite miserable. Besides that, he is cute. When he goes out on the road with me, most of the people would say he is so adorable. So, this is my son. Okay, part 3. Relationships between parents and children. How much time do children spend with their parents in your country? Do you think that is enough? Since we are living in a busy society, parents don't really find time to spend with their children. When they have time, they only have time on Sunday, which is not enough. How important do you think spending time together is for the relationships between parents and children, and why? Oh, I think it is very important. First, depending on how much time you spend with your children, they can grow healthily. Also, it can be good for the education since parents can give their experience to their children. Have relationships between parents and children changed in recent years? Why do you think that is? In the past, parent-children relationship was quite close. However, nowadays, as I mentioned, parents do not find that much time to spend with their children, so they are not that close to each other. What are the most popular free time activities with children today? There are some lists of activities children enjoy, such as watching YouTube, playing computer games, etc. However, this trend has become a negative development for the child. Do you think the free time activities children do today are good for their health? Why is that? As I mentioned, due to the technology that children use nowadays, they are becoming extremely lazy and ignorant. These days, children don't even read. How do you think children's activities will change in the future? Will this be a positive change? I can't expect any change, but I hope that children would read more books and learn how to think deeper. I guess this would be the best option for the country and for the individuals. All right, so today we learned about how to answer these questions, travel type, describe a child, and relationships between parents and children. All right, so as you are looking at these, right, please try to answer as much simple as possible. You know, some of my answers are difficult answers, but try to answer as much simple, right, as simple as possible. Then get used to that. After you get used to that, you can use like fancy words, longer words, but first you have to get used to answering simply, and then you can speak that faster, and then you can control your tone by using that. All right. Okay, so that is it for today. And I'm uploading more videos, so you can always check up my channel. Check up on my channel, and you can search those videos. There's also essay videos and also how to write TOEFL essays as well. So if you're interested, you're always welcome to my channel. All right. Thank you.